Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. Nope. Are we live? We're live. I don't know how these things work out. Hello, my name is Cory, and I'm the lead pastor at Redemption Community Church. So glad that you guys have joined us this morning. It's clear that we are in crazy times. Last night I was on the phone with my grandmother. She's 72 years old as of yesterday, Grandma Carolyn. And for her 72nd birthday, I asked her, I said, Grandma, have you ever seen the world in such disarray like it is today? She said, in 72 years, I have never seen our country shut down the way that it has today. And so it's a crazy, crazy thing. It's unprecedented. We really have not been in this place. And this is what I know. I know that when humanity is faced with seemingly very fearful new things, then we all do one thing. Now, beyond looking for TP, right? Beyond hoarding toilet paper, beyond the panic, what we do is we look for answers. We all look for answers. And I'm not talking about answers of symptoms of COVID-19. We all know that. We've seen the local news. We've read, through social media stuff. We've read the news online. We've seen, if you're a Fox person or a CNN person, you've watched it. You know what those symptoms are. I'm talking about questions that are deep in our bones, questions that live in our hearts, and sometimes we don't even have the words to articulate those questions. They live within us. They're begging to get out, but in the confusion and in the frustration and in the misinformation sometimes, and in the information, you often don't know what to say or how to ask those questions. If that's where you're at right now, then we want to provide an outlet for you to connect with us. We're going to keep our talk today on COVID-19 fairly light and very practical, very applicable, but we know this, that many of you are going to have deeper questions that are not going to be answered in today's time together. So my hope is this. My hope is that you would reach out to us. We're going to put on the screen here just two ways to connect with us. One, you can text us by texting 314-391-4141 and text us anything. We'll connect with you. We're going to use this text message number throughout this broadcast. And so go ahead and write it down. Save it. Again, 314-391-4141. Or you can also email us at hello@redemptionstl.com. hello@redemptionstl.com, because we really want to help you out if you're having these deep questions. I'd love to get coffee with you. One of our staff members or someone from our church would love to connect with you and to talk to you about what's going on and what does that mean for humanity and mortality and eternity and those types of things, the deeper, harder questions in life. As we go through today's broadcast, I skipped this slide, but we have a digital bulletin. We do this at Redemption, and so we invite you to check out our digital bulletin. You can do that by going to our website, redemptionstl.com, and there's a couple places there under Connect and also in the footer that you can go to the digital bulletin. Or if you'd like, you can use the QR code that is going to be on the screen there. If you're watching this on a TV, you can just hold your phone up to it, your camera, and open up the link through the QR code. If you're an iPhone user, if you're an Android user, download an app. I don't know what you guys do. You guys are, a small bunch. Well, as we continue, we're currently in this series called Come and See, and really we're looking at the story of the disciple John. We're looking at his interaction with Jesus and how he came to believe that Jesus is and was the Messiah, the one who he said he was. But we're taking a break, obviously, this week. I believe that when times like this arise, when moments like COVID-19 impacts everyone, it's the responsibility of the church to pause and to address the things that are going on in our communities around us. And so we're going to be taking a break. Originally, we had Danny Moore scheduled to preach this week, and I promise you next week you're going to find Danny Moore here in front of this fire, and he's going to be preaching his message on the feeding of the 5,000. But for this week, you have me. And we were thinking, hey, what are three things that our people would want to hear or need to hear in this moment of crisis, in the COVID-19 crisis? And so we came up with this, 3 life hacks to surviving COVID-19 from the Bible. So number 1 is this: be wise. Very simply, be wise. Wisdom is something that we all want, right? Wisdom is something that we are all looking for, we're trying to find, and we have friends who aren't wise, let's be honest, we just do. And those people who really don't exhibit wisdom, sometimes they have a hard time attaining wisdom, and some people go their entire lives having a hard time. They struggle with actually, obtaining wisdom. However, I think everybody sees the value of wisdom. It's something that everyone is looking for. They see that it really does enhance their life. It really does make their life better. And in this time, we need to be people of wisdom. We need to be wise. And one thing that wisdom does is it goes beyond what is right and wrong, and wisdom goes to what is best. And one thing that wisdom says to us is that fear doesn't get us anywhere. It's one thing that wisdom says to us. There's a book that I read way back in the day. I think it was in 6th grade or something. It was one of the first books that I read. And it was written by the Minister of Defense. If you know of him, his name's Reggie White, and he's the late and great defensive end for the Green Bay Packers. He's probably the best defensive end to ever play for the Packers and one of the best to ever play in the NFL. He wrote this book called God's Playbook. See, Reggie White was not only a hard-hitting football player on the field, but he was also a hard-hitting pastor in the pulpit. And he shared some great words as a pastor and a preacher at a local church. One of the quotes in his book, he says, is this. He says, "Worry is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it gets you nowhere." That's so good, right? Worry is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it gets you nowhere. And fear is in so many ways synonymous with worry. We are people that often worry or we often fear, and it gives us something to do. It takes our mind into a different place. But at the end of the day, our situation is still the same. Our situation has never changed. And so it's something that we need to look beyond worry. We need to look beyond fear. And God talks about this. There's a story in the book of Mark. And Jesus is with his disciples. And Mark is one of these books. It's kind of the life of Jesus. There's 4 books like that called the Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They're in the New Testament. They kind of start the New Testament. So if you want to learn about Jesus, go to one of these books. I encourage you to pick a book and read. Mark is the shortest of them, very short, 16 chapters, so dig into that. And we're going to be reading from Mark today for this first one. But Jesus is with his disciples. They're on this lake. It's a big lake, okay? So think Great Lakes. It's a big lake. And they get on this lake, and often lakes of this size, they kind of have their own, weather patterns and storms and stuff. Well, this storm picks up middle of nowhere. The disciples, many of them fishermen, they weren't expecting this. And this was such a big storm that even the weathered fishermen were freaked. And they're scared out of their mind. And the boat is being tossed, right? Jesus is sleeping, which totally is me, by the way. I'm the type of guy, if you talk to my wife or if you talk to close friends of mine, you turn on a movie and I'm asleep instantly. Actually, anytime that words aren't coming out of my mouth, I'm just sleeping typically. That's the truth. I don't know if that was Jesus' case or not. Maybe you struggle with narcolepsy. Anyway, so Jesus is asleep. He's on the boat. He's passed out. It's like he just took a couple melatonins, right? There's a storm going on around him. And he's at peace, completely sleeping. His disciples are freaking out. Again, worry, fear. They're in that mental rocking chair, right? But their situation hasn't changed. They're still in the storm. And we pick up in verse 39. It says, "When Jesus woke up, he rebuked the wind and he said to the waves, 'Silence, be still.' Suddenly, the wind stopped and there was a great calm. Then he asked them, 'Why are you afraid? Do you still have no faith?'" See, Jesus had been with them a long time. He showed them a lot of really cool stuff, right? A lot of great signs and wonders. And still, they were freaking out. They had lost their faith. The disciples, they're absolutely terrified. "Who is this man?" they asked each other. "Even the wind and the waves obey him." And Jesus is basically saying this: as long as you focus on me, as long as I am the focus of your faith, you don't have to worry. You don't have to fear. Get out of the rocking chair. I got this, right? And Jesus is asking his disciples, do you believe that I have this? Do you trust me? Do you put your faith in me? Do you believe that I'm bigger than the storm? Right? I got this. And so my question to you is, do you believe that God has this? More than the coronavirus. Because let's be honest, as of right now, most of us, other than our life rhythms, we're not greatly personally impacted by the coronavirus, right? But do you believe that God has the coronavirus? Do you believe that God has your marriage? Do you believe that God has your finances? Do you believe that God has your kids struggle with depression? Do you believe that God has these things? Do you believe that he's bigger than the storms around him, around you? Wisdom tells us also that though fear doesn't get us anywhere, it also tells us this, that we can't just stop fearing. To fear is to be human. It's a part of us. It really is. And though Scripture says, and we can talk about this all day long, that God didn't give us a spirit of fear, innately within us, as humans, we do fear. And this is the reality, that we can't be fearless, but we can fear less. We can't be fearless, but we can fear less. As we connect with God, as we are a part, as one with God, as we place our faith and trust in God, he gives us the ability to face fear differently because we believe this. Hopefully that fire doesn't catch my butt on fire. Okay. We believe this. We believe that Jesus is going to work all these things out. That God will work all these things out. And as Christians, that doesn't mean that you can pray the virus away, right? It doesn't mean that you go to the front of your door and you pray that the virus doesn't enter your door and you're safe because God's a heavenly genie that just takes care of you. That's not the case. Now, we encourage you to pray about these things, absolutely. But God isn't a genie. He doesn't bow to every whim that we have, because if he did, then he wouldn't be God. He would cease to be God. We would be God. And so we don't know what God's doing through this always, but we believe this, that God will always work things out. And it may take us getting to eternity. It may take us getting to the next life, not here in this world, to realize what he was doing. But God will work this out. We believe that God is a God of purpose. And we believe that God is working out things in you that you may not understand at this point. God is using this to slow us down, to keep us in our homes. Many of us are practicing that social distancing, and that's great. And so we're staying in our homes. And God may be giving you rest that you didn't ever think was going to come. You're in the throes of work and kids, and God gives you this moment of rest. It could be that God is allowing you to rebuild some relationships that you have not prioritized over the last couple of weeks or months. And now God is shutting your life down, and giving you that opportunity. Or maybe God is giving you the opportunity to reconnect with him. Maybe you started a Bible reading plan in January and you're struggling to keep up with it now. No fingers pointed, but that's me. And so God's giving you this opportunity to slow down, to spend time with him, to put other things on the back burner for this moment. And so you can't be fearless, but you can fear less. And what is wisdom telling you? Take an inventory of your life for the last 2 to 3 days. What purposes is God working out in your life? What is he doing in you? And are you living in fear? Or are you living in this way that in the face of fear, your faith is bigger than that fear? Because you understand that God is doing something great in the midst of that. Okay, that's number 1. I promise number 2 and 3, not that long. Number 2, be united. In a world where unity is scarce, right? Like we don't agree with each other on anything. The debate behind who's the greatest basketball player was a big deal before Kobe passed away. Now, he's going to go up on the list, right? And people debate fiercely about those things. People debate fiercely about coronavirus. People debate fiercely about politics. We are not often unified. And so in a world where unity is scarce, where unity is a novel idea of years gone by, when you are unified, you really stand out. You're really different. We just did this series called Community, and it was a series on community. Pretty cool, right? Yeah, we're really creative here. And so in this series on community, we talked about this, that unity is not uniformity. Unity is not uniformity. And just because you are going to disagree with someone, and you will, that doesn't mean that you can't be unified with them. You are going to have opinions about the coronavirus, about COVID-19, and all these different things. We all do. I do. Everyone does. And even those who have lesser opinions, they still have opinions. And for some of you, you're really passionate about your opinions. But the truth is, there are people on the other end that are equally as passionate, just from a different viewpoint. In the midst of that, in the middle of all that, kind of disagreement, you can be unified with them, even though you don't have uniformity in your thought. John 17, verse 20 through 21 says this, I am praying, this is Jesus talking, this is right before he was crucified. He's in the garden, right before he was arrested. He says, I am praying not only for these disciples, but also for all who will ever believe in me through their message. I pray that they will all be what? One, unified. Just as you and I are one. Jesus is talking to God, right? God the Father. As you are in me, Father, I am in you, and may they, anybody who's ever going to believe in Jesus, may they be in us so that the world will believe you sent me. See, Jesus just isn't praying for the 12 disciples. He's praying for you. Do you get that? Like in this verse, in verse 20, Jesus says, I'm not praying only for these disciples, but also for all who will ever believe in me through their message. Jesus is praying for you. And what is he praying for? He's praying for unity. Why is he praying for unity? Get this. Because we live in a watching world. Our world is watching us. Your family, your friends, your coworkers, your neighbors, they're watching you through Facebook, through Instagram. They're watching you as you leave your house or you don't leave your house. They're watching you at work. They're watching you at church. They're watching you as you drive. Right? When we have road rage because nobody can understand how to use a four-way stop, drives me insane, right? See my eyes going nuts, drives me crazy. But in that moment, the world is watching you. The world is watching you. And what does Jesus say? He says he's praying for unity, and they may be in us so that what? The world may believe that you sent me. See, your unity, it translates into you sharing the gospel, you sharing Jesus to those around you. I mean, it's one of those things that when you're around an organization and there's disunity from the inside, it's hard to believe in the product that they're selling. It's hard to believe in the service that they're giving, right? And God knows this. He knows that when there's disunity, amongst the ranks, it's hard to believe what is being put out. And so Jesus is saying, hey, we need them, right? Jesus is praying for unity. It's the last thing he prayed about before he was crucified. So practically, what does this look like? What does it look like to be unified but not uniform? Okay, unified but not uniform. How does that look like? Well, are you getting in heated social media battles with others so that you can prove them wrong and win them over to your side of the argument? Is that what you're doing? Or are you serving them as best you can during the time? Are you FaceTiming them to see how they're doing? Are you running errands for them? And are you sharing your toilet paper with them? It's the last toilet paper joke I have, promise. But are you serving them? Are you connecting with them? Are you loving them? Secondly, are you calling other people names behind their back because of the beliefs that they have surrounding the virus? Are you talking badly about them? Or are you praying for their heart and yours to remain close during this time of disagreement? See, we can be unified even in the midst of this disagreement. Though we won't be uniform, we can be unified. And being unified, not uniform. Why? Because a watching world is looking on. And listen, your unity or failure to be unified says more about your belief in an eternal God than it does your belief in a virus that will one day cease to exist. Get that? Coronavirus isn't here forever. It's going to be gone, hopefully tomorrow. Not tomorrow. It's going to be gone soon, though. But God will be here forever. And people's belief around you about God will last forever. And your unity with others says more about your belief in an eternal God than it does in a temporal virus. So, if you want others to follow the God that you follow, it's okay to disagree with them. Don't blow them up on socials. Don't treat them like garbage. Be unified with them. Brings me to my third point. Be kind. Very simply, be kind. Along the lines of being unified, we must be kind to one another. I just saw a t-shirt the other day that said, kind is the new cool. And it's true. It is very cool. But I don't know that it's new, you know? Like Christians have been kind for a long time. And we can talk about all the times that we weren't kind, and that's also true. But kindness has been around for a long time, and it's very cool. But God has commanded us. He commanded his disciples to be kind. We're going to get to that. But have you ever been in a house where people are, quote unquote, unified, but they're not kind, right? Not to like blow up my Enneagram 9s, but like often this can come out in an Enneagram 9. Like they'll be unified with someone because they don't want to like, kind of muddy the waters or rock the boat. But kindness doesn't always come out. And what happens when we do that? It's not just 9s. Everybody can do that. What happens when we're trying to be unified, but it's kind of surface level and there's no real kindness coming through? It's called passive aggression, right? We become passive aggressive. And I promise you this, passive aggressiveness, it's just not cool. It's not attractive, right? People will never come to your house and leave after you have tried to be unified with them, but not kind, and go, man, I love those people. They were so cool. Like I could feel the anger and like the tension inside of them, but they didn't say anything about it. They just bottled it up inside. Man, how cool of them. Like they did it all for me, Nobody is saying that. They're leaving your house and they're going, that person is crazy. They are nuts because you were just passive aggressive toward them. See, we can be unified with someone or try to be unified, but we also have to be kind. We have to come around and be kind. Jesus talks about this kindness, right? He talks about it through the lens of love. In John chapter 13, verses 34 through 35, it says, so now I am giving you, this is Jesus, he's talking to his disciples. He says, so now I am giving you a new commandment. Love each other, just as I have loved you. You should love each other. Your love for one another will prove to the world that you are my disciples. That's what our love for each other does. It proves to a watching world that you follow Jesus. That's what it does. That's what being kind to others does. So, again, how you love other Christ followers, especially on socials right now, might I add, says more about your belief in a forever God than a one-day dead virus, And so we really need to be wise. We really need to be kind, or be unified, and we really need to be kind. And how do we be kind? We do it the way that Jesus did it to us, right? We love others the way Jesus has loved us. But how did Jesus love us? He loved us selflessly, and he loved us in action. To quote the old school DC Talk band, love is a verb. You can't get around that. It's not an adjective, it's a verb. It's in action, right? And so we really need to love people in action. And so how are we going to do that? As we wrap up, I want to talk about this. At Redemption, we want to give you 3 coronavirus challenges. 3 coronavirus challenges. Number 1 is this. We want you to pray. And prayer is a big deal. We don't want to think theoretically, how would Jesus love us? What we want to do is go, Jesus would love us by blank. And the way that Jesus loves us, the way that Jesus loved us, is that he prayed for us. That's one of the ways. And we want you to pray for others. Every day this upcoming week, Monday through Friday, we're going to be texting out kind of a prayer prompt. I hate alliteration, but there you go, prayer prompt. And so you're going to get this in your text messages if you subscribe. Very simply, to subscribe, you can just text 314-391-4141. And what we want you to text is pray to 314-391-4141. And so go ahead and text that now. and that will subscribe you to our text messages. And then the second thing is we want you to serve. Again, Jesus served us. And if you're not a vulnerable person, if you're not, and I'm not talking about emotions, right? I'm talking about if you're not vulnerable to the disease, if you don't have lung disease, heart disease, diabetes, if you're not elderly, if you're in a place where you can serve others, serve others. We're going to also use this text message chain to text out some challenges throughout the week, okay? And so we're going to text some challenges. And if you are willing to serve others, text COVID-19 to 314-391-4141. And we're going to interlace some challenges in there and with prayer and things like that. And they're going to be things like check on your neighbors, or beyond that, run an errand for someone, go pay someone's bill for them, or something like that. So there's going to be some challenges there. Okay, so pray, serve, and then the third one is to be served. The third one is to be served. We know this, that many of you are in a vulnerable place, or you have children, or you're taking care of your parent or your grandparent, and it's hard for you to put yourself in harm's way. Or you're the vulnerable person that we talked about earlier. And so if this is you, we want to serve you. We want to love you. Let the church come around you and take care of things for you. We are better together. And so let us come together to serve you and love you. If you need served, again, text COVID-19 to 314-391-4141. And what we're going to do is we're going to, through that, there's going to be an option for you to make your needs known and for us to be able to help you and to serve you. And so don't wait. Don't hesitate on this. Like, really on the front end, be proactive and let us know your needs, because we want to fill them. Okay. And so please text that. Well, that brings us to the end of our three life hacks to surviving COVID-19 from the Bible. And again, make sure you text that number, 314-391-4141, those things that we talked about. We're going to get those things out this week. We want to be connecting you and kind of coming around you, providing ways for you to love others and providing ways for people to love you. And my challenge to you is this: don't lose community in the midst of this. I'm not saying go out and hang out at restaurants and whatever with your friends. What I am saying is FaceTime someone. Send someone a text message. Use this time to send someone a note. Get them connected through a note. Just write them a handwritten note. How beautiful would that be in the world where digital is king? Often the analog and the physical is more powerful. And so write someone a note. Connect with people. Okay. Well, this time, normally in our service every week, we would take communion together. Unfortunately, we aren't going to be doing that this week. But we will, when we reconvene, it's going to be awesome to take communion together as a community. And so that will come. But the other thing that we also do is we get to sing together. And I'm not going to sing. I'm not that great, as a singer, as a leader. But we also get this opportunity to receive gifts, tithes, and offerings. And this is the truth right now, this moment right now, as Redemption, we would love to have funds to be able to reach out to our community, to love them, to provide things. We're in connection with the school right now. They haven't shut down yet. Kirkwood Schools has not shut down yet. I just got an email from Ms. Romay yesterday, who's an administrator in the school. However, there's a chance they're talking about that. Obviously, it's in talks. I mean, the whole state is in conversations about that. If they do, which I don't know, I don't have an inclination of whether they will or not. But if they do, if they choose to, they're going to have the need to provide some lunches to some of their students. And so we're going to come together. We're going to help out with that. We're getting ready to connect with Kirk Care and a couple other places. We want to provide ways for you to serve, but also there's going to be opportunities for us as a church to provide financially and to provide different things for people in the community. And so just know this, that when you're giving your gifts, even though it's not a week that we're meeting together, they're going to be put to great use. And so if you're going, hey, I'm struggling with where to help out, we will gladly use your tithes and offerings to serve this community. That's our goal and our mission. And so you can Venmo us at Redemption STL, or you can give online at redemptionstl.com/give, or you can give by texting any dollar amount to 84321. and you can set up giving that way. But I just want to remind you in this break to go ahead and give. This is what we believe. We believe that the church is not a building that you drive to. It's a movement that you choose to be a part of. And at Redemption, though we're not together in physical proximity and community, we get the opportunity to be together through this digital presence. And I would encourage you this. I would encourage you to share this video on your Facebook. Share it to people. Copy the link. Text it out to your friends. There's a lot of people that are dealing with a lot of things through this crisis, and they have anxiety and they have fear. Maybe this would speak to their heart. And if there are people that you know that would benefit from connecting with me, having coffee, we can do that. And I would love to connect with them. Maybe I FaceTime them for the next week or two. But we would love to sit down with people as best we can and to have conversation with them about what God is doing in the midst of this. So let me pray for us, and then I want to give us a promise from Scripture. Father, I thank you for everyone who's watching today, who's tuned in, and who's going to be watching over the next week or so this message. And God, I pray that you would limit our fears, that you would make us wise. God, I pray that you would limit the division among us, that you would make us unified. God, I pray that you would limit the nastiness in us, the frustration, the natural instinct to rise up and to be angry or upset with someone. And God, I pray that you would make us kind. God, we want to be wise, unified, kind people for your glory so that a watching world can see how we interact with one another and say, I want to be a part of that. Those people love one another deeply. God, we want to be a part of that movement that your Spirit is putting together, not one of division, not one of frustration or anger. And God, I pray that in the midst of this, Lord, none of us are perfect. We all know that. But God, I pray that you would give us the ability to be grace-filled for other people. It's so easy and quick for us to be upset, frustrated, and to lash out at someone, to belittle them, to call them names because of their views when it comes to this. God, I pray that wouldn't be the case with us. Instead, God, I pray that we would seek to understand before we seek to be understood. God, I pray that we would love forward, that we would be generous and giving to those who are in need. And God, I pray that this is a time in a dark place for the church to shine bright. God, I pray that you would use us for your glory and that people would even come to faith because of the way that the church reacts to this. Father, we love you and we praise you. It's all these things we ask. In the name of your Son, Jesus. Amen. And as we close out this digital broadcast, I want to say this. This is from John chapter 13, verse 34. We read it just a minute ago. Jesus says, "So now I am giving you a new commandment. Love each other just as I have loved you. You should love each other." Redemption Community Church, have a great week.